Oh, Sally, did you hear about Mark?
Yeah, isn't that something? Imagine a hero right here in our school.
Sure was brave.
Hi, girls. What's new?
Aw, nothing much. We were just talking about the hero.
So's everybody else. Well, I wish I'd done something like that. Then maybe some of you girls would talk about me for a change.
Oh, don't be silly, Bob. It's just that... Oh, look, there he comes now.
I wonder if he'll still speak to us common, ordinary people.
I'm gonna find out. Hi, Mark.
Hi, ready for the math quiz?
You kidding? I'm never ready for a math quiz. Say, congratulations, Mark. You're quite the hero now.
Oh, that. It was really nothing. Anybody else would have done the same thing.
One day difference.
Mark Anderson was deep in thought as he walked up the sidewalk and into his house one day. His Boy Scout troop had had a meeting after school, and now he had a problem.
Is it a shut-in? I admit it's a good idea, but I don't know anyone. There's old Mr. Hawthorne, but he's not really a shut-in. He's just old.
Mark, are you all right?
Oh, yeah, why?
I just wondered. You haven't said a word out loud since you came in that door.
Oh, I was thinking, I guess. Mom, I got a problem.
Oh?
In Scout meeting this afternoon, we decided it would be a good idea for each of us to choose a shut-in and visit that person every week. Sort of a club project.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Oh, my problem is that I don't know any shut-ins.
Oh, there must be someone.
Oh, I thought of old Mr. Hawthorne, but he isn't really a shut-in. He still gets out and goes to the store and sees people. We're trying to find people that don't ever get out.
I wonder.
Wonder what, Mother?
How about Mrs. Jackson?
Mrs. Jackson? You've got to be kidding, Mom.
Why? She's old, and she's certainly a shut-in. And I know she doesn't have any visitors.
Oh, she's a crabby old witch. It's no wonder she doesn't have any visitors. Anytime somebody goes near her place, she calls the cops.
Mark, what makes you say a thing like that?
Oh, some of the fellows at school were down at her house a few weeks ago, and she called the police and got them in a whole bunch of trouble.
And what were the boys doing? They wouldn't have been annoying her or making a nuisance of themselves, would they?
Well, maybe a little.
Like ringing the doorbell and running, or tapping on her windows.
Oh, I guess maybe they were doing those things.
Well, I think it would be a good idea for you to make a habit of visiting Mrs. Jackson often. I think it would be good for her, and you too, for that matter. Think about it, Mark.
Mark did think about it, and with considerable hesitation, decided to try visiting Mrs. Jackson on 4th Street. He confided in no one but his mother, for Mrs. Jackson had the reputation of being a mean, crotchety old cripple, and he didn't want to be ridiculed by the other boys if his efforts failed. The next afternoon, after school, Mark slowly walked the 4 blocks from his house to Mrs. Jackson's, a bag of cookies in his hand, trying desperately to think of something he could say to the elderly lady. He paused a moment in front of her house, trying to gain some courage. Then he walked up the steps and knocked.
Nobody answers. Maybe she's not home. I hope. No, she's got to be there.
I'm coming. Don't be in such a hurry.
Oh, what a friendly greeting.
Yes, what do you want?
Hello, Mrs. Jackson?
Well, who'd you expect to find? Now, what do you want? Why can't you boys leave me alone? Don't your folks teach you any manners?
Mrs. Jackson, you don't understand. I'm Mark Anderson, and I just live a few blocks from here. And I just came over here. I thought maybe you'd like some fresh homemade cookies. My mother made them.
Won't eat them. You probably put poison in them. Trying to get back at me for calling the police.
Oh, boy, I'm getting nowhere. Mrs. Jackson, huh? I was wondering, maybe you'd like me to mow your lawn. I can run back home and get our mower and...
Don't have money to pay for anything like that. Now, you go on away and leave me alone.
I don't mean for pay. I'll just do it for nothing.
I don't trust you young punks. Now, go away.
Oh, now what do I do?
Well, how did your visit with Mrs. Jackson go? Oh, don't answer. I can tell from the look on your face.
Oh, that woman's impossible, Mother. We're going to have to think of somebody else for me to visit.
Oh, now, son, it can't be all that bad.
Oh, that's what you think. That old woman wouldn't even let me inside the door. She accused me of trying to poison her with the cookies. In desperation, I offered to mow her lawn, and she slammed the door in my face.
Well, I'll have to admit you tried. You know, it's not often you volunteer to mow a lawn. Why don't you go ahead and do it anyway? You could use the old hand mower instead of the power mower. That way there wouldn't be so much noise to bother her.
Oh, but Mom, that's like work. You know, besides, she'll probably just call the police and I'll end up in jail or something.
Oh, I doubt that. But tell you what, Mark, if she calls the police, I'll come down and bail you out.
Oh, thanks, Mom. You're a real big help.
The next day after school, Mark started mowing Mrs. Jackson's lawn, using the hand mower in order to be as quiet as possible.
Hey there, what you doing on my lawn?
Uh-oh, here goes. Police station, here I come. Oh, good afternoon, Mrs. Jackson.
Thought I told you yesterday I didn't have any money to pay for getting my lawn mowed.
Yes, ma'am, you did. That's why I thought I'd come over and mow it for you this afternoon. That way it wouldn't cost you anything.
Oh. Well, I ought to call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. That's what I ought to do.
Oh, maybe so, Mrs. Jackson. But honest, I was just trying to help. I was even using an old-fashioned hand mower to keep from making so much noise that might disturb you.
Disturb me? Huh. Since when's anybody worried about disturbing me? The kids are all the time bothering me just to see what I'll do.
Oh, that may be true some of the time, but not this time. Now, if you don't mind, Mrs. Jackson, I'll finish mowing the lawn so I can go home to supper.
Yes, go right ahead. What'd you say your name was?
Mark Anderson. I live about 4 blocks down the street.
Mark, you know those cookies you brought yesterday? Well, would you like some with milk before you finish the lawn? It's kind of warm out.
Sure, Mrs. Jackson, I'd like that.
That way, if they're poison, we'll both get sick.
The next week after school on Thursday, Mark again went to visit Mrs. Jackson.
Hello, Mrs. Jackson. I came again this afternoon to mow your lawn.
My sakes, you'll kill the grass cutting it so much. It's not used to that.
Well, maybe so, but it's easier to cut when it's not so long. I was wondering, it's such a nice warm day, maybe you'd like to come outside and sit in the yard while I mow the grass. I could wheel your chair out under that tree.
I don't know. Seems like months since I've been outside. Somebody might see me.
Wouldn't hurt them any. Besides, the fresh air would be good for you. Before you know it, you'll be feeling like a spring chicken.
Don't know about that.
Oh, here, let me help you.
And if I catch my death of pneumonia, young man, you'll be sorry.
In spite of Mrs. Jackson's mutterings and grumblings, Mark found a place for her to sit that wasn't too hot, or too sunny, or too shady, or too chilly, or too noisy. When he finished mowing the lawn, he wheeled Mrs. Jackson's chair back into the house.
Ate all the rest of those cookies up myself, but I'll have some fruit juice in the icebox if you'd like some before you go home.
Thanks, Mrs. Jackson. It was kind of warm mowing the lawn. Say, I was wondering...
Yes?
Would you mind too much if I brought my dad's power mower next week to mow the lawn? I mean, would the noise be too much? That way I could finish quicker and maybe take you for a walk in your wheelchair or something.
Noise won't bother me any as long as I know what's making it. It's all the racket that I don't know where it's coming from that bothers me.
Faithfully, Mark visited Mrs. Jackson every Thursday after school. Even though Mrs. Jackson was somewhat more agreeable now than she had been on his first visit, there were times when Mark wondered if he would ever understand the old woman. Then, one Thursday afternoon as he was leaving school...
Hey, Mark, wait up a minute.
Hi, Jerry, what's up?
Well, a bunch of fellows are getting up a ball game in the park. We need you to come and pitch for one of the teams.
Right now?
Oh, yeah, as soon as we all check in at home and get back to the park.
Oh, okay, I'll be there as soon as I check with Mom. Oh, today's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, so?
I guess I can't come after all.
Why not? Have something to do at home?
Well, not exactly. You see, I mow the lawn for Mrs. Jackson every Thursday afternoon. Run errands for her, stuff like that.
Ah, you can do that tomorrow.
She counts on me coming on Thursday.
Well, what difference is one day gonna make? She probably doesn't know one day from another anyway.
Oh, I don't know. I'd sure like to play a good game of ball.
Well, come on, you can go to old Lady Jackson's tomorrow. Well, I don't see why you keep going over there anyhow. She's nothing but an old crank.
Oh, maybe I could go see her after the game.
Well, that's the spirit. I'll see you at the park in a few minutes, okay?
Okay, maybe. Oh, why in the world did I ever get mixed up in this anyhow? If I'd never heard of Mrs. Jackson, I could go play ball and enjoy myself.
Go ahead, play ball. You're only young once.
Today is the day to visit Mrs. Jackson.
What difference does that make? The Frankie, old woman will probably never miss you.
But you always go on Thursday afternoon.
So what? One day won't make any difference. You can visit her tomorrow.
But she may be depending on me today. Maybe she has some errands or something. I suppose I really should go and see her.
Oh, come on, Mark. The boys need you to pitch. One day won't make any difference.
Well, maybe one day won't make any difference. But then, maybe it will. I think I'll go check on her first. Then if there's nothing special to do, I can go play ball. Then go back tomorrow and mow the lawn.
Having made up his mind what he would do, Mark hurried in to tell his mother, then ran down the street to Mrs. Jackson's house. As he approached,
Hey, what's that? Looks like smoke coming out of the window. It is smoke. Wonder where Mrs. Jackson is. Mrs. Jackson! Mrs. Jackson! Let me in, it's Mark! Mrs. Jackson! Mrs. Jackson! Screen's locked. I can't see Mrs. Jackson. She must be in the bedroom where all the smoke is. I've got to get to her. I'll just have to break down the screen door. Mrs. Jackson, where are you? The bedroom's all in flames. Oh, thank goodness, there she is in the living room. Must be unconscious. I've got to get her out. If I can just get her into this wheelchair. There. Now to get out of here.
Oh, good. You got Mrs. Jackson. I saw the smoke and called the fire department. They should be here in just a minute.
Go around to that back room. That's where the fire seems to be. Anybody in that house?
No, sir, not now. I just got Mrs. Jackson out, but she's unconscious.
Schaefer, you direct the men. I'll see about this old lady.
Yes, sir. Come on, men. Get those hoses on over here.
Is she all right, sir? I mean, I got her out as fast as I could. I found her slumped on the floor by her wheelchair, like she was trying to get to it and couldn't quite make it. She's not gonna die, is she?
Thanks to you, son. I think she'll probably be all right. Heartbeat strong, just got a little too much smoke. A few whiffs of this oxygen and she'll be as good as new. Think I'll call an ambulance to take her to the hospital. They can check her over good.
Mark always comes. He'll get me out. Today's Thursday. Mark will come. It's all excitement. What are all those people doing in my house? What is it?
Mrs. Jackson, those people happen to be firemen. Your house caught on fire and they're putting it out. But I see you're gonna be all right. You just stay right here, Mrs. Jackson, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Mother, where are you?
In here, Mark. What is it?
Mother, Mrs. Jackson's house caught on fire, and I got her out just in time. But she doesn't have a place to stay now. I was wondering if maybe she could come here and stay with us for a few days. Okay, Mom?
What? Have that cranky old woman in this house? Why, how could you suggest such a thing?
Oh, Mother, she's not quite that bad. And besides, she's really kind of nice when you get to know her. Can't she, Mom?
Oh, all right, son. Of course she can come. You run back and tell her. I'll be there as quickly as I can.
Swell, Mom. Hurry!
Now, you men leave me alone. I'm not riding in that siren wagon, and I'm not going to any hospital. What are you trying to do? Make an old woman have a heart attack? Now, you get away from here. Leave me alone, or I'll call the police. That's what I'll do. I'll call the police.
What's the problem here?
Well, they're trying to make me go to some old hospital or something, Mark, and I say I'm not going.
But, Mrs. Jackson, you can't stay here.
I'm not going to no hospital.
Mrs. Jackson, my mother said to tell you that you could come and stay with us if you'd like until your house gets fixed up again.
Oh, bless you, Mark. You're a good boy. Well, I wasn't even worried when the fire started, 'cause I knew it was Thursday and you'd be here right after school.
And I thought one day wouldn't make any difference.